Leave the woman and go away, old man. I was picked a fight by the mafia at the airport while heading for a company pleasure trip. Even the boss's daughter Emily got involved, though she just came to help. But she didn't flinch at all, despite facing 5 mafia members. Instead, she was determined to confront the men. Bring your boss here. Then, the mafia boss appeared in front of us. However, his knees began to tremble at the moment he saw Emily's face. My name is Jack, 32 years old. I work for a construction company called Taylor & Company. I started working for this company 3 years ago. After I left my previous job with nowhere to go, my former mentor Kevin introduced this job to me. According to him, the company's employees were mostly former mafia members and delinquents, and the person in charge was also a former mafia member. When I heard this, I worried about whether I could fit in such a place, because my background was as unique as the mafia's. In fact, I was a member of special unit in public security. It was hard to believe someone like me could get along with people who were once my exact opposites. Kevin had understood my situation, so he concealed my background and told them that I was a former mafia member. I hadn't been pried into my past by the employees at the company, although I was worried about playing the role of someone who was once on the wrong side of the law. Instead, the company was a supportive environment where everyone helped each other out. The employees were determined to live properly in this second chance they were given, even though they had troubled backgrounds. It was like a rehabilitation facility where everyone was working towards the same goal. Leading the company's workers was Emily, the acting president, who was only 29 years old. George Taylor was her father and the company president, but he was hospitalized due to his health problems. So Emily was leading the company instead of him, though it was dismantled by the government. There was once a mafia organization called the Liberty Syndicate, which held significant power in the country's underworld. I heard that Mr. Taylor was also an executive in the Liberty Syndicate before founding this company. He started Taylor & Company to help people excluded from society integrate into the general workforce, since he felt responsible for the harm they caused to the society. I used to think of mafia members and their associates as bad people, but working with them changed my mind. Emily and Taylor treated everyone with sincerity, and they had more responsibility than I did. I found them more trustworthy since I had seen the corruption within the police organization. Although the company consisted of people who wouldn't be accepted in normal society, it was a much better work environment than some of those degraded companies. Today, they even took all employees on a pleasure trip to Hawaii. These breaks and events boosted motivation for work. I handled all the travel arrangements for this trip, so that I could help Emily to manage the president's duties. Having someone like you who can handle office tasks quickly is a big help. Our guys are strong, but they're not good at this kind of thing, said Emily. If there's anything I can do, just let me know. Thanks, I appreciate it. But honestly, you don't seem like a former mafia member at all. When she laughed and said that, I felt a chill inside. I tried not to give off any vibes of my former public security role, but I didn't really know what those vibes were. So, I often just ended up being myself. After finishing the check-in at the airport counter, we were heading back to where everyone was waiting. A group of 5 rough-looking men lined up behind me, and one of them started verbally abusing the female staff at the counter. I am telling you, I need to get on today's flight to Hawaii. Don't make me say it again. The skinny, youngest-looking guy among them shouted irritably. The female staff, though brave, told them the flight was fully booked and suggested booking for another day, but the guy wouldn't listen. While a few people in line looked anxious, the men acted as if what they were saying was right. I didn't want to cause trouble, but I couldn't ignore this pointless conversation and reluctantly spoke up. She is saying today's flight is full. Why don't you come back after making new plans since there are people waiting in line? The youngest guy then snapped at me. No, all 5 men seemed to be around the same age upon closer inspection. They all looked to be in their early 20s, with the skinny guy who's been shouting the most appearing to be the leader. What do you want? Mind your own business and go away. The guy was like an uncontrollable dog, ready to lash out at anyone. But since I had already intervened, I had no choice but to go on. At first, I needed to draw the 5 men away from the counter. Our company is going on a pleasure trip to Hawaii. We don't have time to deal with you. I waved the stack of plane tickets for all the employees as I walked away from the counter. The men started following me as if they were lured by the bait. The check-in process resumed, and the people in line looked relieved. Now, I just had to stall until someone came to help, but security was nowhere to be found. "Give us those plane tickets. We're the mafia." The guy glared at me and stepped closer. Calling themselves the mafia in public either honest or just stupid? I responded firmly. Of course not. What nonsense are you spouting in public? This is a law-abiding country. If you cause trouble, the police will arrest you. Even if they were mafia, they were probably low-ranking. I thought mentioning the police should deter them. But I was naive. The men were dumber than I thought. Do you think we can be mafia if we are scared of the police? Get him. At the leader's command, the other four surrounded me. I clutched the tickets tightly to prevent them from being snatched away. Then, Emily came because I didn't return soon, so she worried. She immediately sensed the tense atmosphere and stepped between us. What's going on here? She looked at me and the mafia with serious eyes. Although the leader had been glaring at me fiercely, suddenly he wore a silly grin. Not just him, but all four others smirked lewdly at the sight of Emily. Indeed, Emily was beautiful, and she was wearing a revealing dress for the Hawaii trip. She was wearing a dress with a plunging neckline that she would never usually wear. The dress revealed her ample cleavage, making it hard for the young men not to smirk. I stepped in front of Emily to protect her. "Hey, old man. You've got a hot girl with you." The men suddenly got hyper, and Emily glared at them, but it only encouraged them. "I like your glare. Leave that old man and come with us." One of the men reached out to touch Emily's shoulder. "Stop it. Don't touch her." I grabbed his arm instinctively. He bared his teeth and threatened me. "Leave the woman and go away, old man." The other men joined in. "Go away, old man. Leave the tickets and the girl and go away." But Emily silenced them. "Shut up." For a moment, it felt like time stopped. Emily's commanding presence left us all speechless. However, the leader quickly regained his composure and said, We're from the Stonehaven gang." The Stonehaven gang was a well-known mafia. However, I heard they've expanded too much and lost control. Their lower ranks were filled with young delinquents like these. Their former prestige as mafia has clearly diminished. Moreover, police crackdowns have been severe, and it caused the shrinkage of mafia's influence. So what? We're Taylor and Company. Don't you dare extort regular people, like some petty crooks. Emily yelled angrily. But the leader just laughed. What? Taylor and Company? Never heard of it. Who's the petty group now? I glanced at my watch. We didn't have much time before boarding. Emily, let's leave these guys and go. If we run, they won't follow. I whispered softly to her. But Emily turned her stern gaze on me instead. Jack. We have to take responsibility by our own way. In her eyes, I saw a resolve far beyond my understanding. I was at a loss for words. Bring your boss here. Emily was standing her ground even in this situation. She lived by the principle of never forgiving those who wronged her allies, and I found the world very different from mine. At that moment, an elderly man with a cane appeared behind the 5 men. I immediately recognized him as Victor, the boss of the Stonehaven gang. I knew his face well from my days in public security. Why is the Stonehaven gang boss here? I muttered in disbelief. But then, I witnessed an even more astonishing scene. Though Victor looked like a typical villain, his legs started to shake when he saw Emily's face. Is that you, Emily? This means, is that George here too? Victor glanced around warily. I'd heard rumors about Taylor being a formidable figure, but I didn't realize he could make someone like Victor tremble. No, my father is ill and recovering. I'm running the company now. Victor suddenly smiled, right after he realized his feared opponent wasn't around. I see, he's sick. That's reassuring. Oh, no, I'm concerning. Incidentally, Victor was a man who rose from a nameless thug to become one of the foremost mafia bosses in the US, and he also had ties to the mafia in neighboring countries. There were even rumors that he weakened rival gangs by pitting them against foreign mafias and then gradually expanded his own territory. Since Kevin was knowledgeable about mafias, he told me that American mafias functioned as a sort of underground profession, maintaining order among outlaws, though not publicly acknowledged. They adhered to a code of honor and never interfered with civilians, with maintaining a clear division between mafias and ordinary people. That balance was disrupted as time goes by. One major reason was the recent influx of foreign influences. These new groups had no rules or honor codes. They committed all sorts of crimes for money. Selling illegal goods to civilians and committing violent acts became common. American mafias tried to counteract because they felt that their reputation was at stake, and sometimes it escalated into full-blown conflicts. But they ultimately remained in the shadows. The drive to eradicate all mafias intensified since mafias were ongoing incidents. Although a few mafias survived even after the extensive police crackdowns, most were weakened and resorted to unscrupulous deals with foreign organizations. The old code of honor was all but gone. Victor's Stonehaven gang was said to be filled with foreigners and disposable delinquents. "Sir, it seems your men were harassing ours," Emily said as she walked briskly towards Victor without hesitation. The leader pointed at me and retorted, "Hey! That guy started it first. He was the one who started talking to us." As I looked back, I found him right. It wasn't baseless, but it was me who couldn't tolerate their behavior and spoke up. It was a rash action. By involving myself with the mafia, I ended up causing trouble for Emily. "No, he wouldn't do that. Because I don't teach my people to act that way." Emily said that and laughed. "Oh, just kidding. My father would have said so." But Jack is a principled man, like an old-school cop. He'd never make unreasonable accusations. Being called an old-school cop made my heart skip a beat. Maybe Emily knew my true identity from Kevin. Kevin was the type of person who would confront anyone to protect the security of the United States, and the so-called old-school cop. I was inspired by him and decided to join the Special Forces with the same desire to protect this country. But Kevin had a more critical view of the organization than I did. When I expressed my desire to join the Special Forces, he warned me it wouldn't be easy. At the time, I was too young to understand what he meant. I thought he was referring to the rigorous training and exams. Shortly after, Kevin retired. I met him again a few years later when I just left public security. Jack is a principled man. So if someone was out of line, it must have been you guys. Emily glared at the men with unwavering strength. For a moment, she looked like Kevin. I joined the Special Forces with a strong sense of justice after tough training and exams. However, one incident turned that feeling into distrust of the police force as a whole. I discovered that the core of the United States police force was infested with people pursuing their own selfish interests like leeches. It was an accident during Special Forces training. Actually, a member of the unit caused the incident. It was a shooting incident that took the life of a comrade, but it was treated by the public as an accident. This was done to protect the image of the police force as a whole. At the time, the police were dealing with a series of internal scandals. The incident within the elite Special Forces was something they couldn't afford to reveal, while public trust in the police was plummeting. The details of the incident involved a trainee who couldn't endure the rigorous training any longer, and thought that if an accident happened, the training would be relaxed. During training, he pretended there was an accident and fired a shot, but unfortunately, it hit a comrade. It resulted in the loss of a life. I was with the trainee who caused the incident right before it happened. So I reported the truth to my superiors for the sake of the family of the deceased member. But the news broadcast to the public treated it as an accident, not an incident. When I tried to bring up the truth again, my superior's response was unexpected. "Do you want to smear the organization's reputation?" I lost faith in an organization that would hide the truth for the sake of their reputation. So, I decided to quit. When Kevin heard about my resignation, he said, "You're really an honest and foolish guy. But a true police officer." Anyway, I abandoned my position in the Special Forces. I was so distrustful of the state organization that I could not be re-employed in a state agency, so I was taken care of by my mentor. I met Emily after that, and she had clear eyes despite her complicated background. After all, the mafia is all about honor. I saw in her the ideals I had been striving for. I don't like dishonorable actions either. They tried to take our employees' plane tickets. Make them apologize for that. And I'll overlook the disrespect towards me. But Victor had his pride as a boss as well. He couldn't just agree to a young woman's demands. Emily, you've gotten quite bold. But I don't acknowledge you. Parents shouldn't interfere in kids' squabbles. Victor said that and turned to leave. Emily threw harsh words at his back. We should apologize if we do wrong to a civilian, even in a small way. We've lived by this code, even if we're outside the law. But it seems you don't understand that. Crap. What does a naive girl like you know about the mafia? The real disgrace is committing crimes for money. That's not the mafia's spirit. Their argument escalated and became an unmanageable situation. Moreover, passers-by were staring at us. Emily, let's stop this. We don't have time. And, wait, what? I realized the plane tickets were gone. I glanced at the leader and found him holding our plane tickets. Our tickets had been snatched without me noticing. When did you steal those? Give them back. Is a mafia a theft now? I shouted at the man. I had no choice but to get them back by force. The entire company's pleasure trip depended on it. It was my responsibility. I lunged at the man holding the tickets, but Emily stopped me. Stop it. It looks like security has noticed us. Just wait. I saw a few security guards approaching. It's too late. We might miss our flight. I was frustrated and shouted. Emily looked apologetic. Sorry, Jack. You were right. We should have just run. At that moment, I heard a familiar voice behind us. When I turned around, I saw Taylor in a wheelchair, pushed by Kevin. I couldn't help but ask, Kevin? Why are you here? The employees called and told us that you were in trouble. I drove Taylor here because he couldn't come alone. Emily was also surprised. Dad, are you okay leaving the hospital? Yes, I feel great today. Maybe I can join you on the trip. The most surprised person was Victor when we saw Taylor smile. He looked panicked, almost foaming at the mouth. Taylor smiled and said, It's been a while, Victor. I don't know what's going on, but could you let my employees go on their pleasure trip? Emily pointed at Victor's men. They refused to make amends, so I asked Victor to apologize. But he said he couldn't listen to a young girl. Taylor sighed deeply. You really stick to your principles, don't you, Emily? But you can't run a business with such a rigid mindset. We're no longer mafia. We need to find something more important than honor. Emily looked down as she was chastised by her father. Taylor was a calm person. I'd never seen him angry, and everyone admired him. I couldn't believe he was once a mafia boss. Hey! Return the tickets. Now! Victor was sweating and pale and ordered his men. The tickets were safely returned to us. We finally headed to Hawaii, leaving Kevin and Taylor at the airport. It turned out to be the most enjoyable trip of my life. A few days after we returned, news broke about a police raid on the Stonehaven gang's office in Victor's house. It started with a Stonehaven gang member being killed in an attack in the nightlife district, and it sparked internal conflict. A shootout ensued and caused many casualties. Stray bullets injured a passerby, and it prompted a massive police operation and the eventual arrest of Victor and several top members. Kevin muttered while watching the news, "The city will be safer now." I finally asked Kevin about something that had been bothering me. Victor seemed really afraid of Taylor, but I can't believe Taylor was a bad person, let alone a mafia boss. Kevin responded with a sly smile. You're still as honest and straightforward as ever. I've known Taylor since before I became a cop. I was surprised that Kevin and Taylor had such a long history. Did that mean Kevin had connections with Taylor while he was still a cop? A detective and a mafia boss being friends, it was a world that's hard to imagine nowadays. I don't believe in purely good or bad people. What's important is how they live. I choose my friends based on whether I like their way of life. According to Kevin, Taylor and Victor had a fierce clash back when their gang was torn by internal conflict. Taylor got furious when he found out that Victor had betrayed their code of honor and cozied up to foreign gangs. Victor fled as he sensed danger, but Taylor hunted him down day and night for about a month with a gun. Kevin said that experience traumatized Victor. Taylor couldn't bring down Victor, and that responsibility drove him to leave the mafia. If he had stayed, the American mafia scene might have been different. But honestly, I'm relieved he stepped away. Kevin then revealed that Taylor didn't have much time left to live. 2 months later, Taylor's funeral was held and attended only by family and employees. Emily didn't shed a tear when she heard the news or during the funeral, but as she watched the smoke rise from the crematorium chimney, she whispered a lonely goodbye. I had told Emily about my past in public security, but she already knew that. Everyone had figured it out, she said, and made me feel silly for worrying about it. From now on, I want to live as Emily's right-hand man, supporting each other along with everyone at the company. That Taylor left behind infused with his spirit.